White guilt.
Let's talk about it. We're seeing in the last many years, because of the political situation, but a lot more people are being vocal about their racism that they weren't before. But it was obviously there. But I feel like part of it is that, white men were in power for so long, and they're not going to go not away, but they're not going to go down without a fight.
Right.
Because they're so used to this privilege that to give up stuff, I think, is very difficult. So there's this, I think it feels like we're swinging some ways way over here, and there's a lot more racism, at least publicly, than there has been.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to butcher the quote with something like, when you were privileged, equality feels like an attack, something like that, right? And so I think there is this, like, you know what, we've always had this thing forever, and now people are trying to take it from us, and we didn't do anything wrong, right? The problem is that both sides are in fact correct, that you didn't do anything wrong, right? Why not? I don't know, let's say you're one of them. You got this house, I don't know, maybe your grandma gave you this house. My grandma didn't give me right? So how far does it go? Do I go, well, you know what you should do? You should give me your house, right? Like,
right.
But also some people do believe that. Like, maybe you should give me your house.
Yeah.
Don't give me your house.
Okay.
I mean, I do like this house.
It's a nice house. But...
So, let's talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
Right? But yeah, right? So I think there's just sort of this I mean, I don't know how far we go back, but I get that, right? If me and a bunch of my black friends were out front like, Melissa's house, she didn't deserve it, she didn't do it, you should give us your house, it feels like we're trying to take your house away from you, right? So I get the feeling of it, but there has to be some, I don't know, rational, some sensible place where still recognizing that there is some privilege and being able to do something about it or give back or make, because the other truth is, for example, in this Monopoly study, the people who came in last, they cannot get ahead by themselves. It takes the people that had the privilege to actually do something, right? So I think that's something that's really important too.
And maybe we can speak to, I don't know if I think one of the things that Trump tapped into is this group of white people that felt like they were losing their power, and also they were called privileged, and yet there's a lot of really poor white people that work their asses off and don't have a lot of privilege. And I think for that group of people, it's really hard for them to be like, well, I'm on food stamps, and I am doing this, and I am working my ass off, and I can't pay my bills, and I live in a trailer park. Or, I mean, now I'm saying all terrible things, like that's awful, but I'm just trying to get, like, he did tap into this thing where people that were really suffering and working really hard were made to feel less than, especially by white liberals, like, you've got to feel this way and this way.
Yeah.
But still, even if they still have white privilege.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a really hard...
It's really hard because I think it is one of the things we all have to remember, right? That the people who were privileged were white. Not all white people are privileged, right? Founding fathers, white. There are a whole bunch of people doing coal or working on ships or, right? Like, they weren't living the big life, but they did get closer. Than, particularly at the time, than the black Americans that were here, right? So even then, there is still some privilege, but I think mostly what it is that, and whatever your politics are, I think what happens is that this gets to be a defense for powerful, privileged white people to say, oh, all white people aren't privileged. Look at this group. Look at you down there fighting. You're not privileged. You don't have to hear this over and over again. But really, they're just sort of using that as a tool to protect themselves. It just so happened, again, that those people that started with that privilege were white, and they got to do that. And they were male. Not all men are that way either, right? But because there is this, because you're next to, you get to sort of move around in those circles a little bit easier, right? Talking about this terrible definition, right, of white poverty, uneducated, live in a trailer, what have you, right?
Right.
But even that person could get a good haircut, be put in a suit, told the right things to say, get into an interview, and then
Right.
appear to be like the people in privilege that they're talking to.
Right.
And I think that is something that I don't get the opportunity to do. And so you're more likely to be able to feign being part of the privileged group if you look like the privileged group. And I think that's some of the concern that some people have. I don't think we're saying, oh, white people, you guys got it better than us. You live great. You go on 14 vacations every year, all the thing. But it is easier for white people to get close to that because they look like the privileged group of people.
Like, black men got the vote before women. So I used to, until Joey and I opening stuff, I used to think like white men had privilege, but then black men had a little bit more privilege than white women, and then unfortunately black women further down, right?
Yep.
But that's not necessarily true, but I just look at like, well, black men got to vote before white women, but then they didn't make it hard for white women to vote.